just because he got fired by the company. Angry, David threatened on the spot that he'd send his boss to hell within 3 days. Turns out the boss suddenly died that afternoon. David freaked out. Even worse, he pulled out the murder weapon. Then he realized, oh crap, his fingerprints are on it now, so David tried to stick it back in. But in his panic, he just couldn't bring himself to do it. So he planned to ask a coworker for help, but the coworker saw all the blood and him holding a murder weapon and was totally shocked on the spot. Who knew David was such a ruthless guy? Made threats in the morning and took out the boss by afternoon. David couldn't explain it clearly for a moment. Planning to leave first and figure it out later, he acted calm and got into the elevator. People in the elevator saw the blood on his clothes, too scared to even breathe. Right then, the murder weapon suddenly dropped to the floor.
Sir, you dropped this.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did.
I'm afraid you're mistaken.
Well, I saw it fall from your coat.
Thank you.
Soon, the police arrived at the scene. David knew he'd definitely be treated as the killer, so he covered his nose, pretending to have a nosebleed, walking out in broad daylight, but ran right into the real killer escaping through the vents.
It's not how it looks. Oh, what's the use?
The hitman looked totally confused, had no idea what David was explaining. Right now, he just needed to pack up and leave. David ran all the way to a big bridge, thinking he couldn't keep carrying this murder weapon. So he threw the weapon into the river to destroy the evidence, and ended up throwing the knife right onto the police patrol boat. Now it's even harder to explain. Better just run. Little did he know the police already knew who the killer was, because the office had cameras that caught the whole murder on tape clear as day. But David didn't know that he was convinced he was a wanted man. Seeing cops was like a mouse seeing a cat. He hid in a dumpster all day. At night, he thought it should be safe now. But as soon as he poked his head out, he saw cops again. No choice. He ducked back in and kept hiding. At midnight, David poked his head out again. Turns out these cops were still here. Finally made it to almost dawn. Finally, the cops clocked out. That's when he carefully snuck out. He found a phone booth and called home.
I'm going to try to make my way to Mexico, where I will remain until I can prove my innocence. But until that time, I am a fugitive from the law. I must live in hiding. Never able to rest, never a moment's peace.
Then went to an ATM planning to get some escape money. But after entering his password, he remembered ATMs have cameras. His location might already be exposed. Scared, he quickly threw his driver's license and bank cards in the trash, only keeping $36 in cash. Then he found a bathroom and washed all the blood off himself, then rushed to the bus station.
$36 get me.
Who's there?
Alright. How far will this get me?
There you go.
Thank you.
Meanwhile, on the other side, the hitman saw the surveillance footage the police released on the news. He knew things were bad, so he quickly called his employer, saying this job needs extra pay, or he'll spill everything. Then he stole a Jeep planning to escape to Mexico overnight. But who would have thought he'd run into David again? The hitman saw David kept staring at him. He'd also run into him during the day, thinking, is this guy following me? Freaked out, he quickly sped up. But he didn't know David couldn't even see him. David was just admiring his handsome face in the glass reflection. Just as David was about to take a nap, the driver reminded him, it's time to get off. David was confused. This isn't Mexico. Turns out the ticket seller pocketed his expensive watch, but only gave him a halfway ticket. The driver felt bad for him, so he kindly reminded him, Mexico isn't that far. Just swim across 5 rivers, climb 3 mountains, and walk another 300 miles, and you're pretty much there. Then dumped David in the middle of nowhere. Meanwhile, the hitman had barely gotten far when the radio broadcast a police announcement saying the killer stole a Jeep with flame decals, asking citizens to keep an eye out. Looks like this car has to go. And David walked all night on foot. When thirsty, he'd pick some wild fruit. When hungry, he'd eat some mushrooms. Luckily, he found a Jeep in the wilderness. Yep, the same one the hitman ditched. He tried to hotwire it like in the movies, but seeing all those wires, he was totally lost. Luckily, the hitman left the keys, so he drove straight to a motel. When checking in, he was clever and wrote a fake name. The clerk saw it and was totally confused. Who's called John Michael Smith, Mike Daniel Brown? What normal person uses this name? Out of the corner of his eye, he also noticed the Jeep. Isn't this the guy wanted in the newspaper? So as soon as David left, he immediately called the cops. David just finished his shower and saw the newspaper too. He was confused. He just found this car in the wilderness this morning, and by noon, the cops already knew. That's some crazy efficiency. He got so mad, he started banging his head against the wall. But while he's smashing the wall, the hitman next door was freaking out. Thinking, did I get exposed that fast? He quickly ran to the window to check, instantly stunned. The car he ditched last night. How's it here today? Right then the police arrived on scene. David thought they were coming for him, wrapped a towel around his head and walked out.
What's going on down there? I was just taking a shower when I heard all the sirens, and I was wondering what all the commotion was.
Is that him?
Can't be. Person we're looking for is 6 feet tall, 180 pounds. That woman's nowhere near that size.
I think it's a man.
Really?
But the clerk insisted on identifying him. David was going crazy, disguised like this, and you still recognize me. Seeing he was about to get exposed, he thought of another diversion trick.
Look, behind you!
But the cops had no time for him. But the hitman couldn't hold it in, thinking David was reporting him, grabbed his weapon and started a shootout with the cops. Both sides fighting intensely, David seized the chance and ran from the scene, hearing gunshots behind him. Thinking the cops were shooting at him, immediately switched to zigzag running. Even complained the cops' aim was terrible, couldn't hit him once, then dove headfirst into the bushes. But running on foot won't get him far, so he came to the railroad tracks and jumped.